She was a terror, but she was a product of her environment and didn't stand a chance to make a better life for herself. She died alone aged 26. What was the most ducked up thing you saw in school? I saw the PE teacher getting a heart attack during class and dying. It was ducking scary. A kid clipped the tip of his tongue off with a pair of safety scissors after someone dared him to. Some kid kept crapping in the sink every week and they had to keep cleaning it up. One day I walked in the bathroom and someone had put crap on the wall. A kid jumped over the balcony to try and beat the rush on mashed potato day for lunch. He broke both his legs. Did not get his potatoes. In first grade, a boy pulled his pants and underwear to below his knees and laid down on his back, then a girl spat on him. I don't remember why, but I will never forget that sight. A kid hung himself on a playground our senior year. I hear his brother found him. This all happened a week after two of the brother's friends, also seniors, died when they wrapped their classic Mustang around a tree near the high school. Made for a rough senior year, to say the least. A girl was coming back from a doctor's appointment and wasn't there to hear that we couldn't get out equipment for recess. She opened the door, grabbed something and went to leave. The wind kicked up and slammed the door on her hand and she lost a finger. They rushed her to the hospital and they sewed it back on and eventually it was back to normal, but that was the most ducked up thing I had seen. This girl in my sophomore year sent nudes to an English teacher. When he rejected her advances, she reported him for possession of child pornography. He lost his job, his teaching license, and nearly faced jail time. He was a pretty chill dude too and was well liked by the student body. Goes without saying, the girl received a ton of death threats and ended up dropping out. Watched two girls get into a fight. One girl had a bunch of ear piercings and was wearing so many hoops it looked like chainmail. The other girl got her on the ground, grabbed those hoops and pulled hard. I will never forget the scream. The rings didn't give, but her ear sure as hell did. Blood everywhere, the girl standing over her like a goddamn psychopath holding a very recognizable ear in the air above her head. It was ducking Mortal Kombat in real life. I had a friend that was allergic to so many things he had to eat the same thing every day that he brought from home. I literally mean every day for years. He had a very bad day and failed a test. Some things happened at home. We met up at lunch and he had 2 slices of pepperoni pizza. He said today seems like a good day to die and proceeded to wolf down both slices. I had never seen him so happy. I walked him to the nurse's office as he ballooned up. He was hospitalized for 2 weeks. He never regretted the decision. It was a rival football game and the stands were packed. A section of the old wood bleachers collapsed and 20 or so students went to the hospital with numerous broken bones, concussions, and lacerations of various degrees. During the same game, I saw a guy get hit so hard in the leg that it shattered and both bones were showing. Poor kid ended up in a wheelchair for the rest of the school year. Someone had taken a massive crap. It was larger than a coffee cup in width and considerably longer. So large it was impossible to flush. People were lined up into the halls to see this monstrosity, including faculty. You know it's a small town when a turd calls that much attention. Edit, on a side note, I never knew that such a thing as a poop knife existed, but thank you dear Redditors for the laughs. A giant hawk swooped down on campus and sunk its talons into the back of a squirrel foraging for acorns about 20 or 25 yards from me. Scared the bejesus out of me. He stood on it like a boss for a few seconds and then flew off with it. This was at like 7:30 in the morning, so it took me a while to wrap my brain around it. The guy walking in front of me spun around and said, "Please tell me you saw that." I worked at an American school in China a while back. One day, one of the school buses was on the way to campus from the city and there was an accident that students saw. A truck ran over a man riding his bicycle. The students on the bus witnessed the accident and watched as the man lay dying on the road. They were stuck in traffic and couldn't get away from the horrific scene for over 20 minutes. Kids were crying and traumatized. Most of them were elementary school students. There was a lot of grief counseling in the months after that. Edit, I had no idea so many people would connect with such an awful event. I'm sorry for all of you who have had to witness similar horrific accidents. In this case, which happened in Shanghai, SAS, in the late 90s, the man was dead on impact according to what we heard. May he rest in peace. A couple ducking in the dumpster behind the cafeteria. For the rest of the year, people would walk up behind the dude crinkling paper and asking if it was getting him hard. Just to add a bit, 4 or 5 of my friends and I stumbled upon this event while we were coming back on campus, and one of them went to throw his trash away. It got around the school pretty damn fast. It's probably a good thing that I'm old enough that the smartphone wasn't a thing when I was in high school, because there's a good shot that one of the group would have been dumb and taken a picture that included a 17-year-old having sex. We had this girl in our school who was a year older than me. I didn't know her very well, but we sometimes made small talk. Soon I noticed she wasn't in school anymore, so I assumed she moved or something like that. 5 months later she came back to school, completely covered in self-harm scars, and by that I don't mean just the arms or legs, chest, her neck, her hands, and even her back had multiple scars. She avoided everyone and became a loner. Once I was going to the bathroom during the lesson, and when I opened the door she was standing there cutting herself and crying. I was mortified but sat next to her and just held her. We sat there for 20 minutes before a teacher came and quickly called the ambulance because she bled so much that we sat in a puddle of her blood. I will never forget how much she cried when medicals wanted to help her up, but she let out the most blood-freezing scream I ever heard. They had to restrain her so they could take her to a hospital. I sat there for some more time and just stared at my bloody appearance. I got sent home and just showered and went to bed. She was admitted to a mental hospital where I visited her, and she is doing much better now there. I visit her regularly and we became great friends. A kid in my school year stabbed one of my friends in the back. Not verbally, I mean with an actual kitchen knife. We were 11. Edit, wow, I didn't think my most popular comment would be one about my friend getting stabbed. We are in the UK and it's 31 years ago in a place near Peterborough. I've tried finding it online but there aren't any online articles about it. I've asked my mum, as she is a hoarder, and she might have a copy of it from the paper as it made national headlines. He was stabbed in the back and it narrowly missed his spine. He was in hospital for a week as needed surgery to remove the blade, and then went home with no side effects physically except the scar, which was pretty impressive. Obviously psychologically was a different kettle of fish. The boy that stabbed him wasn't one of his friends but wasn't an enemy either. He had gone around that morning saying that he was going to stab someone, but no one took him seriously. He was sitting at the desk behind my friend, and leaned forward and stabbed him. He was expelled, but at that time I believe the law was that he was considered a child and therefore couldn't be prosecuted. Knife crime wasn't really a thing here in the UK at the time. I hope that answers some of the questions that there have been. Our school bully, nasty piece of work we'll call C, ripped the wig off a new student, A, who had recently returned from cancer treatment. They got into it and A was suspended despite multiple witnesses. We suspect even the teachers were slightly scared of C. Next day as we were leaving, A was waiting outside for the doors to open, comes straight in, grabs C's hair, slams her head into a locker, then proceeds to pull out a huge pair of scissors and violently chops off as much hair as she can before the teachers intervene. She was obviously expelled, but man, she's still my hero. Bully C was definitely put in her place after that and absolutely toned down her torment of everyone else. Wish I knew what became of A. Edit, as some PPL were asking about what happened to C and A, and I'd like to clarify, those are not their names, but I called some old friends tonight to see what we could dig up. We do not know superhero A's last name, so no info sadly, but I'd like to think she's doing amazing. On to the bully. So there is a reason I couldn't pull up any current info on her, and as I suspected, she did pass away in 2003. This is not cause for celebration, as from what I gleaned from old friends it was a suspected drug overdose. She wasn't a kind person by any means, but she was also dealt a pretty crappy hand, and I feel sad for her and those that loved her. Doesn't excuse her behavior at aged 14 to 17, but I have no interest in bashing her. She was a terror, but she was a product of her environment and didn't stand a chance to make a better life for herself. She died alone aged 26.
Like and subscribe for more funny, interesting, and scary r/ask Reddit videos.